Have you ever finished a horror movie and felt more angry than scared? Not because it was bad, but because it seemed determined to punish you for watching it? Some horror films do not just deliver fear, they deliver frustration, heartbreak, and pure rage. From cruel twists to hopeless endings, these movies leave audiences staring at the screen in disbelief. And trust me, when we reach number 3, you may never forgive that ending. Number 16, Poltergeist, 1982. Most haunted house movies build slowly before revealing their horrors. Poltergeist decides to throw viewers into chaos almost immediately and never really lets them catch their breath. Everything begins with ordinary suburban life. Then strange events start piling up. Furniture moves by itself. Voices emerge from television static. Objects disappear without explanation. At first, the family treats these incidents almost like a curiosity. The audience knows better. The irritation comes from watching normal people underestimate an obviously supernatural threat. Every new occurrence becomes more dangerous than the last. Yet everyone keeps hoping things will somehow return to normal. Director Tobe Hooper creates unforgettable images that remain disturbing decades later. A terrifying clown doll, a tree that seems alive, a horrifying hallucination involving a man's own face. The film constantly escalates beyond what viewers expect. What separates Poltergeist from countless imitators is its ability to balance wonder with terror. The paranormal activity is fascinating, but also deeply threatening. Every attempt to understand it only leads to greater danger. Number 15. The Conjuring. 2013. James Wan understood something many modern horror directors forget. Audiences become far more uncomfortable when they know exactly where danger is hiding, but the characters do not. The Conjuring introduces a family that moves into what seems like a peaceful farmhouse. It does not take long for strange occurrences to begin. Doors open on their own. Unseen forces stalk the hallways. Children report encounters nobody else can explain. The maddening part is how patiently the evil presence operates. Instead of attacking directly, it slowly dismantles the family's sense of safety. Every night brings a new disturbance. Every investigation uncovers another horrifying detail. Ed and Lorraine Warren arrive determined to help. Yet even experienced paranormal investigators struggle to understand what they are facing. That realization alone creates enormous tension. If the experts are frightened, then nobody is safe. Wan uses atmosphere with remarkable precision. Long, quiet sequences force viewers to scan every corner of the frame searching for movement. The audience often notices threats before the characters do, which makes every scene feel like a ticking bomb. The Conjuring does not simply scare people. It frustrates them by showing exactly how helpless ordinary families can become when confronted with something truly evil. Number 14. Ju-on. The Grudge. 2002. Japanese horror has a reputation for making audiences uncomfortable in ways Hollywood rarely attempts. Ju-on. The Grudge is one of the clearest examples. Instead of building toward a final confrontation, it presents a curse that simply refuses to stop. Once you encounter it, your fate is already sealed. The frustration begins because there is no real solution. New characters enter the story, hoping to understand the mystery surrounding a haunted house. They investigate strange sounds, unexplained disappearances, and disturbing visions. The deeper they dig, the worse everything becomes. Every discovery only confirms how hopeless the situation really is. Director Takashi Shimizu creates fear through silence and anticipation rather than spectacle. A pale face emerging from darkness or a strange clicking sound can be more terrifying than any monster attack. By the end, viewers are left with the uncomfortable realization that nobody wins, nobody escapes. The curse continues without mercy, and that sense of inevitability is exactly what makes the film so infuriating. Number 13. The First Power, 1990. Let's begin with a movie that feels like it wants to punish its audience almost as much as its victims. The First Power introduces the terrifying Pentagram Killer, a serial murderer so vicious that even execution cannot stop him. When the authorities finally put him to death, it should feel like a victory. Instead, it becomes the beginning of everyone's nightmare. What makes this film so frustrating is the way every apparent success immediately turns into a disaster. Just when you think the heroes have gained an advantage, the killer returns with an even more dangerous ability. He can move through bodies, appear from nowhere, and twist reality itself. Every plan seems useless. Every confrontation feels hopeless. Lou Diamond Phillips delivers a committed performance as a detective trapped in a battle he barely understands. The tension grows because the rules constantly change. The audience keeps waiting for a breakthrough that never comes. By the end, you are less scared of the killer than you are annoyed by how impossible he is to stop. The first power turns frustration into a weapon and uses it against everyone watching. Number 12. Prince of Darkness, 1987. John Carpenter made many great horror films, but Prince of Darkness remains one of his most unsettling creations. The movie begins with a fascinating premise. A group of scientists and graduate students are invited to study a mysterious cylinder hidden inside an abandoned church. What they discover threatens the future of humanity itself. The irritation arrives when the characters slowly realize the danger surrounding them, yet cannot stop what has already been set in motion. Strange dreams begin affecting everyone involved. People become trapped inside the church. Outside forces gather in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Every attempt to regain control only pushes events closer to catastrophe. Carpenter creates an atmosphere of doom unlike almost anything else from the decade. The recurring dream broadcasts are especially disturbing because they suggest the ending before it arrives. Audiences spend the entire movie hoping someone will prevent disaster. Instead, the story moves steadily toward one of horror's bleakest conclusions. The final moments leave viewers shocked, frustrated, and deeply unsettled, which is exactly why Prince of Darkness earns its place on this countdown. Number 11. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Imagine finally falling asleep after a long, exhausting day, only to discover that sleep itself has become a death sentence. That terrifying idea is what made A Nightmare on Elm Street an instant horror classic. Wes Craven took the one place where everyone should feel safe and transformed it into a battlefield ruled by a monster who bends reality however he wants. The frustration begins the moment Freddy Krueger enters the picture. Nancy and her friends quickly realize something impossible is happening. People are dying in their dreams, and the injuries appear in the real world. The evidence is right in front of them, yet the adults refuse to listen. Parents dismiss warnings. Authorities ignore the danger. The teenagers are left completely alone to face a threat nobody understands. What makes the movie so aggravating is the lack of escape. Staying awake only delays the inevitable. Sleeping invites Freddy into your mind, where he controls every rule. Craven constantly shifts between dream and reality, making viewers question what is real, alongside the characters. By the final act, Nancy is fighting not only Freddy, but also the disbelief surrounding her. The result is a horror masterpiece that turns helplessness into pure terror and leaves audiences furious that common sense never arrives soon enough. Number 10. The Evil Dead, 1981. Few horror films demonstrate how quickly a simple weekend getaway can descend into complete madness. The Evil Dead starts with 5 friends traveling to a remote cabin in the woods. It sounds harmless. Then they discover an ancient recording that unleashes forces beyond human understanding. From that moment, everything spirals into chaos. One reason this movie frustrates viewers so effectively is because every bad decision has catastrophic consequences. The warning signs appear almost immediately. Strange sounds echo through the forest. Unnatural events begin occurring around the cabin. Yet curiosity keeps pushing the characters forward. Once the evil is released, there is no way to contain it. Friends become enemies. Trust disappears. Survival becomes almost impossible. Sam Raimi directs the film with incredible energy. The camera races through the woods like an unseen predator. Everyday objects become sources of fear. The isolation grows stronger with every passing scene. Unlike many horror films where help might eventually arrive calm, The Evil Dead traps its characters in a nightmare with no realistic escape route. By the conclusion, viewers are exhausted from watching disaster after disaster unfold. The film succeeds because it never offers comfort. It simply keeps escalating until audiences can do nothing except watch the nightmare consume everyone involved. Number 9. The Exorcist, 1973. Long before modern horror became obsessed with jump scares, there was The Exorcist, a film so disturbing that reports of shocked audiences became part of its legend. Even today, it remains one of the most effective examples of horror designed to make viewers uncomfortable on every possible level. The story follows a young girl named Regan, whose behavior begins changing in terrifying ways. At first, her mother searches for rational explanations. Doctors perform tests. Specialists offer theories. Everyone desperately wants a scientific answer. That search becomes increasingly frustrating because every reasonable explanation fails. The deeper the investigation goes, the clearer it becomes that something impossible is happening. What truly infuriates audiences is watching innocent people suffer while answers remain out of reach. Regan endures horrifying torment. Her mother becomes desperate. Even the priests who attempt to help are burdened by personal struggles and doubts. William Friedkin builds tension through realism, which makes every supernatural development feel even more disturbing. Rather than relying on cheap shocks, the film creates dread through inevitability. Each attempt to solve the problem reveals an even darker truth. By the time the exorcism begins, viewers are emotionally drained. The Exorcist remains powerful because it forces audiences to witness overwhelming suffering while offering very little reassurance along the way. Number 8. Witchboard, 1986. At first glance, Witchboard looks like a typical supernatural horror film. Then it slowly transforms into the kind of movie that makes you want to yell at the screen. The story centers on a young woman who becomes obsessed with a Ouija board after making contact with what appears to be a friendly spirit. The problem is that every warning sign imaginable appears right in front of her. Strange voices, unexplained events, violent manifestations. Yet the obsession only grows stronger. What makes the experience so maddening is how believable the danger becomes. The audience can clearly see the trap closing while the characters continue walking deeper into it. Every seance feels like another bad decision. Every attempt to communicate with the spirit makes the situation worse. Director Kevin Tenney creates an atmosphere filled with dread through shadows, silence, and unsettling camera movement. The supernatural presence never needs to scream for attention because it is always lurking somewhere nearby. Witchboard is scary, creepy, effective, but it is also the kind of film that leaves viewers begging the characters to stop doing exactly what they keep doing. Number 7. Session 9, 2001. Abandoned hospitals already feel unsettling. Session 9 takes that fear and stretches it across an entire film until viewers feel trapped inside the walls themselves. What begins as a routine asbestos removal job gradually transforms into one of the most psychologically disturbing horror experiences of the modern era. A small work crew accepts a contract to clean the massive Danvers State Hospital. The building has been abandoned for years, yet it feels strangely alive. Endless corridors disappear into darkness. Forgotten patient rooms hide disturbing remnants of the past. As the workers explore the property, tensions begin rising among the group. Financial pressure, personal conflicts, and growing paranoia slowly eat away at their relationships. Every warning sign is ignored because the job needs to be completed. Director Brad Anderson understands that dread is often more effective than shock. The discovery of old therapy recordings becomes the film's most powerful weapon. Each tape reveals fragments of a deeply troubling story, while suggesting that the hospital itself may still be influencing those inside. Viewers spend the entire movie waiting for someone to recognize the danger before it is too late. That moment never really arrives. Session 9 becomes increasingly frustrating because disaster feels preventable from the very beginning. Watching characters walk toward their own destruction is exactly what makes the experience so unforgettable. Number 6. Halloween, 1978. Many slasher films try to explain their villains. Halloween does the opposite. Michael Myers remains frightening because he feels like a force of nature rather than a person. That choice turned John Carpenter's film into a classic and also created one of horror's most frustrating killers. The story is deceptively simple. 15 years after murdering his sister, Michael escapes from a psychiatric institution and returns to Haddonfield. He spends much of the movie watching from a distance, standing silently behind fences, appearing at the edge of streets, observing his future victims without saying a word. The audience sees him constantly, while the characters remain unaware. That imbalance creates enormous tension, because viewers know danger is always nearby. What makes Halloween so maddening is how often Michael should be stopped. He is confronted multiple times. He suffers injuries that would end most threats, yet he keeps returning. Donald Pleasance delivers a memorable performance as Dr. Loomis, who desperately tries to warn everyone about the evil Michael represents. Few people listen. By the time they understand the truth, it is already too late. Carpenter's minimalist style makes every appearance feel significant. The ending refuses to provide complete closure and leaves audiences with an unsettling realization. Evil has not been defeated. It is still out there waiting. That lingering frustration is precisely why Halloween remains so effective decades later. Number 5. The Blair Witch Project, 1999. Most horror movies eventually reveal the monster. They show the threat. They provide answers. The Blair Witch Project became famous because it refuses to do any of those things. Instead, it traps viewers inside confusion and fear, then leaves them stranded there. 3 student filmmakers travel into the Maryland woods to investigate the legend of the Blair Witch. At first, everything feels manageable. They record interviews, follow local stories, and document their progress. Then the forest begins fighting back. Strange noises echo through the darkness. Mysterious symbols appear outside their camp. Paths seem to lead nowhere. The deeper they travel, the more disconnected they become from reality. Arguments replace cooperation, and panic slowly takes control. What makes the film so frustrating is its commitment to uncertainty. The audience keeps expecting a reveal, some explanation, some glimpse of the force responsible for everything happening around them. The movie never provides one. Every answer creates another question. Every attempt to regain control ends in failure. By the time the infamous final scene arrives, viewers are desperate for clarity. Instead, they receive one of horror's most debated endings. The Blair Witch Project succeeds because it weaponizes ambiguity. It leaves audiences angry, confused, and deeply unsettled, which is exactly why people still talk about it decades later. Number 4. Terrifier 3, 2024. By the time Terrifier 3 arrived, audiences already knew Art the Clown was capable of horrifying violence. What nobody expected was how quickly this sequel would begin testing their limits. Within minutes, the film establishes that absolutely nobody is safe, and it never eases up from there. The opening sequence alone is enough to explain why so many viewers reacted strongly. What should be a cheerful Christmas setting becomes the backdrop for unimaginable brutality. Art invades a family home and turns a peaceful holiday scene into a nightmare. The violence is extreme, but the real source of frustration comes from the complete absence of mercy. Horror fans are used to shocking moments. Terrifier 3 feels determined to keep escalating long after most films would stop. Director Damien Leone understands exactly how far he is pushing the audience. Every scene seems designed to create discomfort. Every encounter leaves viewers wondering how much worse things can become. Unfortunately, the answer is always worse. Art remains one step ahead of everyone around him, and his victims rarely get meaningful opportunities to fight back. By the end, many viewers feel exhausted rather than relieved. Terrifier 3 earns its place on this list because it deliberately challenges audience tolerance levels. It is not simply trying to scare people. It wants them angry, disturbed, and emotionally drained. Number 3. The Mist, 2007. This is the movie that turns ordinary frustration into outright rage. Many horror films have bleak endings. The Mist has an ending so devastating that countless viewers spent years arguing about it afterward. Even Stephen King famously praised the film for being darker than his own original story. A violent storm sweeps across a small town, leaving behind a mysterious fog filled with deadly creatures. A group of survivors become trapped inside a grocery store, while panic spreads among those sheltering inside. The monsters outside are terrifying, but they are not the film's greatest threat. Fear, paranoia, and selfishness quickly begin tearing the group apart. Every decision becomes a battle. Every attempt at leadership faces resistance. As the situation deteriorates, viewers watch common sense disappear piece by piece. What makes The Mist unforgettable is its final act. After enduring wave after wave of horror, the surviving characters appear to reach a heartbreaking conclusion. Then the movie delivers one of the cruelest twists ever committed to film. The timing is so brutally perfect that audiences often react with disbelief before anger takes over. Frank Darabont creates a finale that feels like a personal attack on viewer optimism. When the credits roll, many people are left staring at the screen, wondering why they put themselves through such emotional punishment. That is exactly why The Mist lands at number 3. Number 2. Hereditary, 2018. Some horror movies want to frighten audiences. Hereditary wants to emotionally destroy them. Ari Aster's debut feature arrived with enormous praise, but many viewers were unprepared for just how relentlessly cruel the experience would become. This is not a haunted house story. It is a slow-motion collapse of an entire family. The film begins after the death of a secretive grandmother, whose influence lingers over every member of the family. Annie struggles with grief. Peter feels increasingly isolated. Young Charlie seems disconnected from everyone around her. At first, the story appears to be a disturbing family drama with supernatural elements hiding beneath the surface. Then one shocking event changes everything. What follows is a chain reaction of guilt, anger, paranoia, and unimaginable loss. Every attempt to recover only creates new suffering. What makes Hereditary so infuriating is its refusal to offer emotional relief. The characters never receive a break. Every revelation makes the situation worse. Every discovery strips away another layer of hope. Toni Collette delivers a remarkable performance that captures grief in its most painful form. By the time the final act arrives, viewers realize the family was trapped from the very beginning. The ending answers many questions, but provides no comfort. Hereditary leaves audiences feeling manipulated, devastated, and angry at how completely it dismantles every expectation of a traditional horror movie. Number 1. Funny Games, 1997. If horror movies are supposed to entertain audiences, then Funny Games exists to challenge that idea. Michael Haneke created a film specifically designed to frustrate viewers, and it succeeds better than almost any horror movie ever made. This is not a story about survival. It is a direct confrontation between the filmmaker and the audience. The premise sounds simple. A family arrives at their vacation home expecting a peaceful holiday. Two polite young men soon appear and begin a series of increasingly disturbing psychological games. The family attempts to resist. They search for opportunities to escape. They fight back whenever possible. In most horror films, those efforts would eventually lead to a victory, or at least a meaningful struggle. Funny Games refuses to follow those rules. Every moment that appears hopeful is deliberately undercut. The reason this movie earns the top spot is because it actively punishes viewers for expecting satisfaction. Haneke constantly reminds audiences that they are watching a constructed story, then uses that awareness against them. One infamous sequence remains among the most controversial moments in horror history because it erases a hard-earned victory and replaces it with complete despair. The film offers no catharsis, no justice, and no reward for enduring its cruelty. Instead, it leaves viewers furious by design. Funny Games is not merely a horror movie that will piss you off. It may be the ultimate example of one ever made. So there you have it. 20 horror movies that do far more than scare. They frustrate, shock, and emotionally punish their audiences. Some leave you angry at the characters. Others leave you angry at the ending. And a few seem designed to make viewers suffer. If you think we missed an even more infuriating horror movie, let us know in the comments. Just do not blame us if you decide to watch them.